Have you ever considered how just one unexpected thing, like a total anomaly, could completely destabilize a world, especially one built on really rigid social rules and, power that's never really been questioned? What if the very system meant to keep order actually becomes the spark for a revolution? Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through different sources to bring you the core insights, the really surprising nuggets of knowledge. Today, we're diving deep into Victoria Aveyard's big hit, the young adult fantasy novel Red Queen. Our source for this is a really detailed review of the book, and our mission, well, it's to pull out the most important bits about its world, its characters, the themes, basically giving you a shortcut to understanding why this book captured so many readers. Okay, let's unpack this. We're stepping into a society where your blood, literally your blood, dictates your entire life.
It really does. The whole foundation of the Red Queen world is this incredibly stark division in society. It's a class system that's, like you said, literally in the blood. So on one side, you've got the Reds. They're basically ordinary humans. They're oppressed, forced into servitude, pretty much seen as expendable labor.
Yeah, they're the backbone, doing all the work, but they're completely subjugated.
Exactly. And then looming over them, you have the Silvers.
Hmm?
These are the elites, the rulers. They're set apart by their silver blood, obviously, but also because they have these, well, godlike superpowers.
We're talking serious powers, right? Like controlling fire, water, mind control, even super strength.
All of that, yeah. And this inherent magic ability is a foundation of their belief in their own superiority. And it justifies their absolute control. It's a very visceral way to show power and privilege.
It's fascinating how deep that hierarchy goes. It's not just about money or politics.
No, it's biological, or at least that's the belief.
Yeah.
It's seen as this unchangeable truth. Silvers are almost divine because of their powers. Reds are just lesser. It creates this incredibly oppressive system where your whole identity is tied to your blood.
And smack bang in the middle of all this is our protagonist, Mare Burrow. She's 17, a red from this really poor area called the Stilts. Her life's already tough, facing conscription into some brutal war. But then she ends up at the Silver Palace, and something completely world-changing happens. She finds out she has powers, a red with powers, specifically this unique deadly power linked to lightning.
Which is just the ultimate catastrophe for the Silver System, right? Her very existence completely undermines their whole claim to superiority, their divine right to rule. It proves their core belief that only Silvers have power is just wrong. The review really highlights this point. One anomaly doesn't just challenge the system, it threatens to unravel the whole thing. It forces everyone to confront the idea that the oppressed might actually have the very thing they're denied. It makes you wonder, how prepared any rigid society is for something it just can't explain or control.
Okay, so the Silvers find out about this red girl with silver-like powers. What do? Do they, embrace her uniqueness? Admit their system might be wrong?
Not a chance, no.
All right.
Instead, she's immediately pulled into their world, but it's all a cover-up. They force her to pretend she's a long-lost silver princess, all to hide her red blood and keep up the illusion that silvers are supreme.
Wow, so she gets a new name, Marina Titanos, gets dressed up in fancy clothes.
And gets engaged to the king's younger son, Prince Maven. It's this terrifying high-wire act, basically. A game of charades played right inside the monarchy. She's living a complete lie, every second performing, just to stay alive and protect this massive secret that could bring down the kingdom. You can feel that tension right away.
And while she's doing all this, playing princess in the Silver Court, surrounded by the people who oppress her kind, she's also secretly connecting with the rebels.
Exactly. She gets involved with the Red Rebellion, the Scarlet Guard. Their whole goal is to overthrow the Silver regime.
So she's juggling these two completely opposite lives.
Yes, and that duality is absolutely key. It drives so much of the story's tension, her internal conflict. She's constantly walking this tightrope. On one hand, she's betraying the Silvers she lives among, even forming bonds with some. On the other, she's risking everything for the Red cause. It's a non-stop dance of deception, loyalties tested constantly.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Her life turns into this high-stakes chess match. Every single move could mean death. Not just for her, but potentially for everyone, Reds and Silvers. And the book itself, the review says it's packed with political intrigue.
Oh, definitely. Layers and layers of deception. Betrayals that genuinely shock you. Plus, you get these really intense action sequences.
And there's romance thrown in, too, just to complicate things even more for Mare.
Right. It's not just a simple good versus evil rebellion. It's this tangled web of Alliances, hidden agendas, shifting power. It's complex.
If you look at the bigger picture here.
Well, yeah, connecting it outwards.
Yeah.
This isn't just a fantasy story about magic and fighting. It's really exploring classic themes, resistance against tyranny.
Yeah.
But that supernatural twist, the powers, it just raises the stakes massively. The setting itself is a brilliant way to explore inequality, power dynamics, how a whole society can be built on a lie, basically, a fabricated hierarchy.
Mare's personal struggle kind of mirrors the larger fight.
Exactly. It questions who really deserves power, how it should be used. And what's really insightful, I think, is how the book shows that power, especially power that seems absolute, can become incredibly fragile when it faces something unexpected, something it can't categorize. It's a reminder of how shaky that perceived superiority can be.
Okay, so we've got the world, the plot. Let's dig into the characters. The review really focuses on Mare Barrow. Says she's strong, relatable, but also flawed.
Yes, and that's presented as a strength, actually. She's not some perfect, untouchable hero. She makes mistakes. She's thrown into this incredibly dangerous, deceptive world of power games, and you see her learning, sometimes the hard way. Her decisions feel, well, they feel real, given her background and lack of experience.
That makes sense. I mean, some reviews mention readers finding her decisions frustrating sometimes.
They do, yeah. But they often follow that up by saying it's understandable. She's not a trained spy or politician. She's basically a kid from the slums suddenly navigating royal courts and rebellion strategy. It's life or death stuff. And it brings up that interesting question, doesn't it, about heroism. What makes a hero relatable? Is it their flaws, their struggles, or is it seeing them always make the perfect choice?
Good question.
In Red Queen, Mare's flaws, her stumbles, they're crucial. They make her human. They make her eventual successes feel earned,
I get that. Sometimes the flaws do make a character more compelling, especially when everything's on the line. And it's not just Mare, right? The supporting cast adds depth, too.
Absolutely. The royal family members, especially the two princes, Cal and Maven, and the rebels she works with, they all add layers to the conflicts. You get these really dynamic relationships, shifting loyalties, betrayals that keep you guessing who Mare can actually trust. It's definitely not a world painted in black and white.
And the characters reflect that complexity.
Precisely. Their individual struggles really help explore those deeper themes we talked about. The princes, for instance, they each represent different facets of silver power. Their reactions to Mare, this anomaly, reveal fascinating conflicts even within their own privileged class. It forces Mare and us as readers to constantly question assumptions, maybe even sympathize with characters on different sides. It makes the whole political game feel incredibly personal.
Okay, moving beyond characters and plot, let's talk about the writing itself, the craft of the story. The review praises it for being gripping, having dark undertones.
Yes, it pulls you in. And the world building is consistently highlighted as impressive. It really immerses you in that stark divide between reds and silvers. You feel the weight of the oppression, the huge contrast in their lives.
That world building sounds crucial.
It is, because it's not just background scenery. It makes the social injustice feel real, almost tangible. The descriptions constantly reinforce that contrast, the red struggles versus the silver's almost terrifying power and luxury. You don't just read about the divide, you feel it.
And what about the pacing?
The review notes it starts a little unevenly, takes a bit to set everything up, but then it ramps up significantly. It becomes really intense, full of suspenseful twists, action sequences. Once things get going, especially as Mara gets deeper into her deception, it doesn't let up.
And it builds to a strong finish.
Very strong. An impactful climax and ending that definitely leaves you wanting the next book, which is exactly what you want from the first in a series.
That pacing sounds key for a story like this.
It is. Especially with all the political maneuvering and high stakes, it keeps you hooked, keeps you invested as secrets unravel and true motives come out. That rising tension is what makes it a page-turner.
So putting it all together, what does this mean for someone thinking about reading it? It sounds like it's not just thrills, but it's got substance, too.
Exactly. It's a thoughtfully constructed world tackling big themes. Oppression, resistance, the fight for equality, the complex nature of power itself.
Plus all that personal stuff, loyalty, betrayal, identity.
Right. Especially with Mare juggling her two lives. Her loyalties constantly being pulled in different directions. It really explores that gray area.
And these themes, they're pretty universal, aren't they?
Absolutely. They go way beyond the fantasy setting. Questions about justice, social structures, personal integrity under pressure. The loyalty and betrayal aspect is particularly well done, I think. Mare's position forces her and the reader to constantly rethink who to trust, where true allegiance lies. It makes you think about those tough choices people face when caught between powerful forces, especially when personal feelings clash with a bigger cause.
Okay, so let's talk reception. How did Red Queen actually land with readers?
Overall, very positively. It's generally seen as exciting, entertaining, often gets around a 4 out of 5 stars in reviews.
And it blends genres well. Political drama, superpowers, coming of age.
Yeah, it manages to weave those together really effectively. It feels familiar enough for YA dystopian fans, but also fresh because of its specific elements. The politics give it that intellectual edge, the powers provide the fantasy hook, and Mare's journey is the emotional core. It hits a sweet spot for a lot of readers in that genre.
What makes it stand out specifically?
According to the reviews, it's mainly two things: that unique power system, the red versus silver blood abilities, and how it balances the fast-paced action with solid character development.
Yeah.
You get the excitement, but you also care about the characters.
Even though some parts might feel familiar.
Right. Look, the YA dystopian genre has seen a lot of stories about class divides and rebellions, but the specific way Red Queen uses its power system, how it's tied into the politics, that gives it a fresh angle on those familiar tropes. It makes it feel like more than just another dystopian story.
But it's not perfect. There were criticisms.
Sure, some readers found certain plot points predictable, and we already mentioned Mare's sometimes frustrating decisions.
But the overall takeaway.
The key takeaway from the review seems to be that the strong ending and the complex, layered conflicts more than make up for any minor issues. It delivers on its premise and sets up the rest of the series really well.
It shows how a strong finish and thematic depth can really elevate a book, right?
Definitely. It's about the overall impact. And Red Queen clearly leaves a strong impression that resonates beyond any small criticisms.
The specific ratings mentioned in the review back that up to world building gets a near perfect 5 out of 5. Character development, a solid 4 out of 5.
So the recommendation is pretty clear.
Yeah. If you enjoy YA fantasy, especially with that strong political intrigue, plenty of action, and a complex heroine caught in this really dangerous power struggle, then Red Queen seems like a very strong contender. And knowing it's the first book is good context too. It sets up a big world and a longer arc.
Exactly. It lays excellent groundwork.
So, if you're someone who loves a story where the stakes are just incredibly high, where every choice matters immensely, and those lines between good and evil get really blurry, well, this deep dive hopefully shows you exactly why Red Queen might be your next must-read. It really offers that compelling mix. Fantasy, politics, character depth makes it a worthwhile read for genre fans.
It also definitely leaves you thinking about power. Who has it, how they got it, how it's used, and how its misuse can spark revolution from the most unexpected places.
Precisely. In a world where power seems to define absolutely everything, Mare's story really makes you wonder. Is real strength about the abilities you have? Or is it about the choices you make when those abilities completely shatter everyone's expectations?